Orthodox Judaism is the only true version of Judaism. But some people ask me, why is it that you're so against conservative and reform? What do they do to you? I actually had one guy who goes to an Orthodox shul that I spoke at once, but he's completely reformed. Drives on Shabbat to Beit Knesset, complete reform, makes his own rules. But he likes to hear the prayer in the Orthodox, so he goes there. He doesn't really keep anything. So he saw one of my lectures and he was very, very upset because I spoke against reform. No, you should talk about love of Israel, unity. You shouldn't tell people that reform is bad. You're going to get punished for that. I'm thinking to myself, Be'ezrat Hashem, right after you get punished for Shabbat, right after Hashem finishes with you, He'll deal with me for talking about reform. So people ask, what do they do to you? I'll tell you two things. First and foremost, people have to understand there's only one truth. You're either living the truth or you're living a lie. There's nothing in between. There's no gray area. Hashem is not politically correct. Hashem has no second truth. There's only one truth. This is why we know that Christianity is false. This is why we know that Islam is false. This is why we know that everything else other than Judaism is false. You're either Orthodox Jew or you're a righteous Noah. No JC, no Muhammad, no Buddha, none of that garbage. There's proof that the Torah is divine. There's zero proofs that anything else is divine. Anything that's authentic or divine that you could find in the New Testament or in the Quran. Why? Because it comes from the Torah. They just copied it and you can find it. And they even say it comes from the Torah. But anything that they wrote and added to the Torah, complete nonsense. And you have proofs that it's nonsense. Unfortunately, the Reform and the Conservative can actually be even worse. Because they mock Hashem. Christians and Muslims, I'm not talking about the people that hate Jews. I'm talking about normal people, normal Muslims and normal Christians. I guess in today's world, abnormal Christians and abnormal Muslims. Not everybody likes us in today's world. But the ones that don't hate Jews, they don't mock Hashem. They love Hashem. Some of them love Hashem even more than Jews do. They just have a mistaken belief. It's a big mistake, but it's a mistake. Islam is not considered idol worship because they still worship the same God. But there's some teachings in it that are complete heresy. It's complete kfirah. Christianity is complete idol worship, according to most opinions. There are some opinions that don't consider it idol worship, but everyone obviously knows it's complete heresy either way. But either way, they all believe that it's the same God. They all believe that there's still a creator, one creator, still monotheism. And he has rules, and they believe in the Torah. They don't comply with it, but they believe in it. The Conservative and the Reform took it to a different place. They decided to change the Torah. When Hashem said that someone that's a homosexual gets all these punishments, in the written Torah, there was a conservative rabbi who wrote an article. I don't think Hashem meant it when he said that the punishment goes to the homosexuals. When Hashem said that a homosexual and a bestiality, someone with animals, is the same thing. He didn't mean it. He was just kidding. I'm not joking. He wrote this article. When Hashem said that tefillin is for human beings, Reform don't agree with it. They put it on dogs too. So they mock Hashem. It's a completely different world. It's much worse than anything else. So that's one thing. If that doesn't hurt you, you have to work on yourself a little bit. To me, it hurts me. They hurt my father. They're mocking my father. It hurts me. Bezat Hashem, I can help them do tshuva, but it hurts me. But here's a proof how it even hurts them, even hurts all of us. Regardless if someone is religious or not religious, unless they're one of these lefty losers that hates his own nation, if they're a normal Jew, whether religious or not, they're hurt about the Holocaust. It's very painful to think about 6 million Jews were killed. Number one newspaper in America is the New York Times. The New York Times, according to a book called Buried by the Time by Laurel Leff, he gave statistics showing that what everyone is saying, that people didn't, around the world, especially in America, didn't know that the Holocaust was happening, is complete false. Everyone knew. And not only did they know that the Holocaust was happening, but it was published in many, many newspapers. Why do I mention this to you? The New York Times itself admitted the Times has long been criticized for grossly underplaying the Holocaust while it was taking place. Clippings from the paper itself show that the criticism is valid. They admit it. 60 years later, but they admit it. Worst of all, the New York Times was not merely guilty of a series of unfortunate mistakes. Rather, its scandalous coverage of the Holocaust was intentional and driven by policy, all overseen by the newspaper's publisher, Arthur Hayes Sulzberger, a Reform Jew. Sulzberger was an assimilationist. He claims that his fear was that his paper be identified as a Jewish newspaper. Honestly, this is Zman magazine. I always tell you guys about this magazine. It's highly recommended. They have phenomenal stories. The story about Jews fighting the news made me so upset I stopped reading it. I couldn't read it. This particular section I read, and after I vomited, I made sure to mention it to you guys. The point I'm trying to make to you, when people say, what did these Reform and Conservative people do to you? You should ask yourself, what did they do to you? Even though we know, as Torah-observant Jews, that everything in the world comes from Hashem. Everything. There's no suffering without sin. But when we know that Hashem has picked us to be our own worst enemy, we know the problem is with us. And it's deeper than we even imagine. When someone has no yirat shamayim, you cannot trust them. And according to the Gemara, you cannot even be in a closed room with him. Where do we learn this from? Avraham Avinu says, there's no yirat shamayim here. That's why I was scared you're going to kill me. What do you mean, no yirat shamayim? Why is someone no yirat shamayim, no fear of Hashem? What? If I don't fear of Hashem, that means I'm going to kill you? Avraham Avinu in the Torah says yes. Sometimes with weapons, sometimes with words. When someone has the audacity, the chutzpah, to change the holy Torah and put tefillin on dogs, make homosexuals head rabbis in a congregation in Jerusalem, say it's allowed to drive on Shabbat directly against the Torah, they obviously have no yirat shamayim. Now, most people don't care about yirat shamayim, but they care about the Holocaust. So even the members of the Reform shuls and the members of the conservative, I bet they don't know this. Because just like the few papers we wrote a couple years ago about kosher, and the different ingredients that you have in non-kosher foods, even people that eat non-kosher food didn't realize what they were eating. And just because of the disgusting ingredients you find in non-kosher food, just for that they started keeping kosher. Sometimes just knowledge is enough. Someone that knows that this is the foundation, this is who's behind reform, this is who's behind conservative, this type of understanding. Who wants to be part of that? You're better off not being part of anything. The same thing goes with Moshe Mendelssohn. Lived about 250 years ago. One of the forefathers of there wasn't really conservative and reform back then, but forefathers had a university and said, he was a rabbi. He says, I think we should have our children go to learn some secular knowledge. And he coined the saying, be a Jew inside your home, but a human being outside. Meaning, keep your Jew to yourself. He was a rabbi. Go get university education. Forget the yeshiva. Rabbi said this. You know what happened? He had 6 kids. 4 of them became Christians. Source, Wikipedia. There's only one truth. Not always logical to our human logic, but it's always logical for divine logic. When you know that divine logic is chukat, it's engraved, it doesn't change, you have a good start. Be'ezrat Hashem, all of us will engrave this into our own neshamot and do tshuva.